Let's go to Betty Henderson. She runs SSRI website, ssristories.com, with over 3,000 cases of what happens when you put people on these drugs. Ma'am, it's good to have you here, and we appreciate you taking the tens of thousands of hours to compile the website.
Oh, thank you very much.
I'm sorry you had to hear that whole rant, but are you aware about the CPS people?
No, I wasn't.
Well, I don't usually get that heated. They're trying to pass a bill where they can kidnap anybody's kids without any due process.
Well, yes, that's not good.
and that's bad enough with supposed Al-Qaeda, but now our little kids?
Right. Well, our little kids are having a bad time with these antidepressants, too, I'll tell you.
Absolutely. Well, we'll tell folks about the site and what you've compiled.
Okay, ssristories.com is a website that contains 3,109 media articles where an antidepressant was mentioned and a criminal activity, either of violence or murder-suicide or suicide or arson, was committed. And right there in the media articles, see, these aren't personal stories. These are stories that appeared in newspapers and some journal articles around the country. And we believe that, in fact, Japan just recently passed a warning, their FDA, their equivalent of our FDA, which is called the Health Ministry over there, that they do believe that there's a causal relationship between these antidepressants and violence.
Kind of like causal, like water's wet and rice is white and the sky is blue.
Uh-huh.
We're about to go to break and come back, and I'm going to try to shut up and let you go through all this. We're really honored to have you on, the great work you've done.
Oh,
when did you first start compiling ssristories.com?
1997.
Well, it is hellish, man. We're going to come back in just a few minutes, and I'm going to give you the floor. I want you to break down these stories.
Okay, I will. Thank you.
You bet. And it's people like you that have forced Prozac to put it on their own insert with a drug that it causes psychopathic behavior and murder and suicide. And every mass shooter I've seen, every killer, every time some woman kills her kids, they're always on this stuff because it's in the hallucinogen class. We'll be right back. Betty Henderson, ssristories.com, up on screen right now as we simulcast it. prisonplanet.tv. Got Ron Paul on the show tomorrow, a bunch of other big guests throughout the week, and I'm going to have some shows where we take a lot of phone calls. Next hour, we will open phones up with Wayne Madsen joining us on the host of issues. Okay, man, this is a short segment, long segment coming up. Get rolling with these stories, 3,000 plus. You've got it categorized there. I mean, everybody knows, it's common sense that, that most of the mass shooters, almost all of them, women killing their kids, they're always on Prozac-type drugs. Let's go through some of those stories and why the science shows and why they now have to admit that it causes these types of behaviors.
Well, first of all, I want to say that anybody that's taking these drugs do not, under any circumstances, withdraw from them abruptly. In fact, on our website cover page, it says withdrawal can often be more dangerous than continuing on the medication. It's important to withdraw extremely slowly from these drugs, usually over a period of a year or more, under the supervision of somebody who's qualified and understands what is happening when you withdraw. Okay? Hello?
Oh, yes, go ahead.
Oh, so I wanted to explain about that withdrawal and how dangerous you can go into withdrawal mania and commit suicide or violence. If you, in fact, the last school shooting we had, the University of Northern Illinois, he was in a 3-week withdrawal from Prozac. Extremely
for those that don't know, it creates a chemical imbalance, so you have to go off very, very slowly. And a lot of the mass shootings are when psychiatrists or psychologists change the medication, or when the person gets locked up in jail and they don't give it to them, then they release them 3 days later, completely out of their minds. Go ahead.
Yes, just going into jail, being on antidepressants, and then going off of them in jail, and then being released. Oh, that's so dangerous. So dangerous. The convicts are more dangerous than they, used to be. I mean, it's just really tragic. But what I was going to say was that the times that it's most dangerous for this violence and criminal activity and suicides to take place is when you are beginning the drugs or when you're stopping the drugs. When you're increasing the dose or decreasing the dose, or when you're switching from one antidepressant to another antidepressant. Those are the really dangerous times. And we went ahead and decided that we were going to let as many people as possible know about the dangers of these drugs, and so we put up ssristories.com. And since the Japanese have warned about the warnings on how dangerous these drugs are and that there's a causal relationship, I think that people should know that between 30 to 50 million people in the United States, because actually 6%, 1 out of 6 people has tried these drugs at one time or another, and currently 1 out of 10 people is taking one of these antidepressants. And these drugs, right there in the physician's desk reference, it says that they can cause mania and psychosis. So we have 30 to 40 million people taking a drug that could potentially cause mania and psychosis. And in the physician's desk reference, this is not even listed as a rare reaction.
Are you familiar with the studies that have been done in Europe?
Yes.
Clearly showing that it causes people to have these psychotic breaks and can even cause people to have hallucinations because these drugs are in the serotonin reuptake inhibitors, psychotropics are in the hallucinogen class?
Yes, they are. In fact, 200,000 people a year or more will go into a hospital with an antidepressant-induced psychosis. That's right up there in SSRI Stories. It's a journal article. And so these drugs can cause hallucinations, and that's one of the things that's listed. So let me go through the adverse reactions that's listed here. A manic reaction, that's different kinds of mania, including kleptomania, pyromania, that's arson, dipsomania, there's alcohol cravings there. It causes abnormal thinking and hallucinations. Personality disorders, amnesia, emotional instability. It can cause alcohol abuse and a craving for alcohol. It can cause hostility. Antidepressants, especially the SSRIs, can cause paranoid reactions.
Stay there, Betty Henderson. The government admits this, the FDA admits this, but they want to put basically all the school kids on it. Okay, Betty Henderson, ssristories.com. So you put together the site of the 3,000 cases of people on psychotropics, killing themselves, killing others, or doing insane things. They admit in the desk reference for these drugs that it causes all the things you were mentioning. You had gotten up to paranoid delusional. Please continue.
Oh, well, these are just some of the physician's desk reference, lists adverse reactions. And if you look at it, and you'll see, like, for instance, in Prozac, confusion is a frequent side effect, and so is amnesia, and so is agitation, and so are sleep disorders. Sleep disorders include terrible nightmares. Some people have terrible nightmares. And then, since the drugs suppress the REM sleep and release your muscles so that you can act, some people act out their nightmares. They get up in the middle of the night and then do something violent or, unprovoked.
Yeah, sleepwalking, violent sleepwalking.
Yes, and that's under sleep disorders. Then also in the insert to the drugs, to these Prozac, Paxil, Zoloft drugs, it says it can cause delusions, it can cause abnormal dreams, and it can cause inner restlessness. And then, of course, it can cause the discontinuation syndrome, which is actually, of course, withdrawal. That's their polite word for it. And agitation, and all kinds of terrible things can happen to people when they get caught up in this cycle of these drugs, and sometimes they can't get off of them, and it's dangerous to get off of them, and so it's just really a national tragedy. And we have 3,109 cases that have appeared in newspaper articles where it mentions these drugs, and they've done terrible things. I mean, when you go into the cover page of SSRI Stories,